Hi, Cindy. It is great to see you. Happy International Women's Day. I can't think of anybody else I'd rather spend it with.
Well, thank you.
Um,
Great to see you. It's been a while.
it's been a while, and I think about when I knew I was going to be speaking with you, I just had a flood of memories come back. Obviously, having started at Vanity Fair and really spent the majority of my career there until I moved to Netflix. Now I have a podcast doing so many other things, but you have been such a big part of that experience and also kind of my experience in this world when I think about it, from watching House of Style on MTV. Like to think about those, what you were able to do back then, being the first model that looked like you, first of all, with dark hair, dark eyes, not this kind of sea of all American blonde, blue eyed, women that we were so used to seeing. I really feel like for me, you've always been the one and only. And I am absolutely so excited to talk to you and catch up and find out everything that you're thinking and doing now and thoughts on what you've done before and all of that stuff. So I'm just going to get right into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So on that, following that thread of you kind of being the first, you really were the first. And I can objectively say that, having been in journalism and witnessed that. You were Cindy Inc. We all remember the Pepsi commercial. We remember, like I said, the House of Style. You broke those barriers off of just being a model for hire, right?
I guess, yeah, it was, first of all, Vanity Fair is the one who dubbed it Cindy Inc. And I loved that. It's stuck, it kind of stuck. I like that idea. It empowered me as, in a way to realize that I had created a brand and that gave me a platform. Before we talked about platforms and personal brands, that wasn't really a thing that people thought about then. House of Style was something that fell in my lap. I think MTV was looking for someone that appealed to men and women. It had to be someone that had fashion credibility, but also appealed to what was more primarily male audience at that time. And I had just done Vogue and Playboy and the Pepsi commercial. So I was like a good mix of everything. And House of Style was such an amazing opportunity because it gave me a chance to get off of a two-dimensional page of a magazine and talk and show my personality and have fun. And that helped get me comfortable being in front of the camera so that when I eventually did other things, I had that time to kind of develop, Cindy Crawford, so to speak.
As a woman in your 20s, like when you look back, what were you thinking then that you can't believe was your reality now that you are in your 50s and you look back?
Well, I for sure thought I would be retired at 25 as a model anyway. And I was like thinking, okay, I dropped out of school to model, which, I don't regret, but I was thinking now I'm at 25, I'm going to have to figure out like my next career. I never thought I would still be in front of the camera at, I'm 55, almost 56. In the beginning, you take any job that will pay. I remember my very first ad was for like a Cross Your Heart bra for Marshall Fields and the Chicago Tribune. I did that. I did, one of the weirder ones I did was for a drink in Japan called Pocari Sweat. And it was like an electrolyte replacement drink, but whatever, like people were paying you, you showed up, you put on what they told you, you did what they asked you to do within reason. And you said, thank you very much. But the more, the longer I was in that career, the more I wanted to be part of the people making the decisions.
But you really were authentic from jump, right? You were who you were from the day you stepped in front of that camera. And I know I can tell the, people tuning in now, the story about your mole, fighting to keep your mole on your face, literally and figuratively. People that told you to have it removed, we don't want that, a beauty mark, and then deciding absolutely not, I'm keeping it, and then having magazine editors remove it off their covers, right? So you literally had to put that in your clause for hire. No, keep me as I am. But what I think is really interesting about you is you've always been the same in terms of you show up on time, you're professional, you get the job done. There's a certain consistency, Cindy, that you've always had. And I feel like that enabled other people to maybe take a risk on you. It was an easy risk because they knew you were going to deliver. You were going to put your all into that. Can you talk about like that mindset? Was that learned or earned?
I definitely think I owe a lot to my parents and my Midwestern upbringing. So I always approached this fabulous world of fashion. I say that with like air quotes around it, that it was a job. It's what I do. It's not who I am. So the same way, if I had a job in an office or I was in college, which I was briefly, I showed up on time for class, or I showed up prepared with my homework, or when I babysat, I showed, all of those things. I showed up on time. I paid attention. I was prepared. And that's the same advice I give my children. Even when my son had his very first job at a smoothie shop, it was like same advice that I gave Kaya when she started modeling: show up on time, be prepared, keep off your phone. That was something I had to add for this younger generation, because I feel like they get so buried in their phone that they aren't even paying attention to the people around them. And I learned so much from just being a little sponge. I just paid attention to what everyone was doing, the client, the art director, the photographer. And also that's how I made friends. That was how I found my community, my family, my found family.
Being in your 50s, like how do you feel in terms of confidence, or like what makes you insecure now in your 50s as opposed to
midriffs? What else? Like I've always like on any photo shoot, I'm like, look, I just don't do midriffs anymore. I'm sorry. Like standing next to my daughter, I try to treat myself the way that I treat my friends. When I see my friends, I think they look great and they are so like alive and confident, and they know who they are. And I try to use that same lens. If only there were an Instagram filter for that, right?
yeah.
That we see ourselves the way that we see our best girlfriends. But yeah, of course. I mean, I'm a regular woman. There's, days where you're like, I joke, I'm like, oh, I went to pull my pantyhose up and realized it wasn't pantyhose, it's just my skin. Just, you realize you're like, wait, that's not my arm, that's my mother's arm, or whatever. But I always say it's better than the alternative, and I'm so blessed. So it's like, yeah, we all get hung up on those little things, but I think if you are, having a meaningful life, whatever it is, whether it's your career or your philanthropy or your children or your relationship or your friendships, or a great combination of all of those, then I think it's easier to, acknowledge like, that doesn't look the way it used to or whatever, but then get off of it really quickly and focus on the next great thing.
I've noticed in getting older, I'm comforted to know that you feel the same thing when you look at your arms, because I say that all the time. So I already feel better knowing that I share that in common with Cindy. But I feel like I've gotten more opinionated in a way. Like I feel more compelled to speak up and speak out, and that see something, say something. I feel like my voice has gotten stronger and unrelenting in a way, and navigating how you do that and not be like, oh, okay, old lady, even though we're not an old lady, but that feeling of like, what do you have to say? Yeah. Okay. Boomer.
Really boomers, right? But I think that
Gen X.
Exactly.
But
I think it's interesting because I wouldn't say a love-hate, but I have a love and love less relationship with social media. I mean, sometimes I'm just like not in the mood for it. It's this hungry little beast that just always needs fed. Also trying to figure out what I want to say. What am I, and is it meaningful? Does it need to be meaningful? I also think that, we all are aware that we live in a cancel culture right now. And I definitely try to think twice before I push post. But at the same time, like you, I do feel like, gosh, I mean, yes, I'm just a model, or maybe like, I know even I get sometimes annoyed when other celebrities are telling me who to vote for, let's say, right? But they're still human. So they're just like, I don't get mad at my neighbor if they have like a political poster in their yard. So why can't I? Like, it's different standards if you're a celebrity, but in a way you're just trying to share your opinion. So I kind of see both sides, and I'm definitely having some internal conversation about like, how do I want to use this incredible platform that I've built and a community that I think at this point I've earned their trust. Like, they kind of know what you see is what you get. So trying to figure out, how do I want to speak to them? It's interesting. I've never done this before, but this year I decided to work with a coach. I don't know if you've ever done that. Mm-hmm. And I found this woman, and she was saying, we actually had this conversation as one of our meetings. And she was saying, maybe the question you want to ask yourself about your social media is, can they feel you? Like, do they know what you're feeling? Because I'm so used to just like the visual and whatever. And I thought that was a really interesting question. I haven't really incorporated yet because we just had the conversation 2 weeks ago. But I kind of want to build toward that. Maybe that my messaging on social media becomes more about sharing, not so much who you should vote for or how you should feel about this, but kind of like my deep thoughts or whatever, because gosh, I have learned a lot over the years, and you can agree with me or not. If you don't, please don't be snarky on my Instagram, but I don't want to be quieted, I guess. And I think that's kind of what you were hinting at, right?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And the cancel culture, I mean, it is alive and well, but I also feel like you can't play the game when the rules are always changing. So at a certain point, it's like, if you are who you are and you are consistent in who you are, you have earned the right to have an opinion, as long as it's not harming children and hurting anybody or animals or any of that stuff. It's like, and I do feel it's really hard, especially where we are right now, because none of us have lived through this before. We don't know what the outcome of this is. Our kids are digital natives. I'm the same with you. Like, I've had to adapt because of work, and I've had to learn how to do it. And it wasn't natural. And then I was like, oh, I can curate. Oh, I get this. But then it changes, right? And
just when you had it down, then all of a sudden, like, okay, that's looking like, oh, like that's so last month or whatever, like Instagram, it just constantly keeps reinventing itself. But one of the things you said that, that I find interesting is like, if you're consistently who you are, you earned an opinion, but also you've also earned the right to change your opinion.
Right.
I felt things at 20 and 25 that I totally believed and felt that maybe now I think differently about. I certainly don't want it to be like, well, you said 25 years ago, this one thing, because if you're not growing, like, if you're not willing to evolve and grow, then what are you doing? And I think that kind of goes back to what you were talking to me about, me and my brand and authenticity. Like, I'm my own customer. I always say, test it on supermodels, not on, animals. And as I've shared that, I think that that's invited not every woman, not every man, but like some people that go, oh yeah, I like that. And then they'll come along, and you can't be everything to everybody, but the people that are interested, they know that I'm talking to them from like my own life experience, struggles, concerns, joys, whatever it is.
So, I mean, I know we have to kind of ease towards wrapping up here. I can't talk to you forever, but what is something that you really want to do next? Like, what's next for Cindy?
Oh, wow. I wish I knew the answer to that. I think that is part of why I started working with a coach, because it's like, okay, I still like, I feel like I have a lot of energy and I want to do stuff, but what? And the challenge, I think, and this is what I'm working through, is, does it have to be, people know me as, a model, fitness, beauty. Is my next chapter going to be an evolution of that, or could it be something totally different? I thought it had to be in this one box that it's a great box, by the way. I've been in it for a long time, and it's been, a very nice place for me. And it would be easy to, figure out something else, obviously I've been talking about doing podcasts and this and that, but it'd be like beauty. And is that really, do I want to keep on that track, or is there something else for me? So I have enough of that kind of work that keeps me engaged and busy, but I'm also allowing myself time to figure out like, ooh, is there something like way over here that I haven't even looked at yet? So it's kind of exciting. It's a little scary, but we'll see.
I feel like there's going to be some surprises. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time, and enjoy that Malibu. I hear the waves.
Well, happy International Women's Day.